I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Gluttons for Geekdom. I am Nick James, Harry Potter is up, and today, boom, Prisoner of Azkaban. Number 3 in the series, my favorite in the series. What I decided I'm going to do is I just recently went through, if you don't Audible, I suggest you do. Jim Dale does an amazing job of narrating it. Just went through it, and there's many actually, excuse me, differences between the book and the movies. I was going to talk about 3 main ones, but just to get everybody in and going, I'll start the way I normally do. The movie came out 2004, and this time it was Alfonso Cuarón's, his turn to get the turn to direct. After him, he gets one more. Somebody directs them before. I'll tell that when I do it. But after that, David Yates gets them all the way up till Fantastic Beasts and Where's to Find Them. And he does a great job doing it. So really, let's get into what I wanted to talk about, and that's first and foremost in the movie. You get the Marauders map, and everybody knows that's what that is, and the incantation that I started the show with is what spreads the ink around, and it gives you the little ink blots. But the explanation behind who the Marauders were was very vague in the movie, so let's go through that. If Professor Lupin is Moony, and he is called that because he is a werewolf. That is very well explained in the movie. What's not is that Dumbledore knew that and still accepted him into Hogwarts with the provision of making sure that everybody was going to be safe. So when it was his time of the month in terms of being a werewolf, he would go to the Whomping Willow, which was planted the year he came to Hogwarts for him, because there's a tunnel that leads to the Shrieking Shack. So he got in through there, and the tree would keep anybody else from following or going there. And during his transformation, he'd be in the Shrieking Shack, and that there's no ghost there. It was him. So that's something that kind of really doesn't get played along, and they get there in the movie, and that's when Harry's there and he messes with Malfoy. Another small little quibble is they never see his face. In the book, they see Harry's head pop out. If this was an invisibility cloak, they see his head pop out, and that's how Snape kind of gets a better idea that no, he was really there. He has a cloak like that. So to continue on, that was the Shrieking Shack. That was Moony, and then his 3 friends found out about it, and he thought it was going to be like everybody else. Lupin thought it'd be like everybody else, and that they were going to want to leave. And no, they ended up becoming Animarguses. Don't know about the pronunciation. Animargues, and it's not a real word, so I guess I can't. Whatever. So that's where, if you read it, the Marauders, who are Masters Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs. Moony is Lupin, like I said. Padfoot would be Sirius. He's an Animargus and turns into a giant black dog. And that's who they call the Grim the entire movie. And they think he's a omen for something bad, but as we know, it's his godfather, and it's not really that bad. Prongs would then be Harry's father. It's actually James Potter, and he became a giant elk, like his Patronus and like Harry's Patronus. And then there was one more. Who am I missing? Wormtail, Peter Pettigrew. Okay. And let's get into that. Leave a comment down below, because I don't know the true answer of if his brothers, Fred and George Weasley, really had the Marauders map and were looking at it. They never happened to pass by this man with their brother, and they were like, who's Peter Pettigrew? Answer down below. I'm sure there's got to be an actual answer. Ooh, somebody's writing in. Love the masks. Oh, thanks, Lawrence. Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for the masks. Thanks. Going back through, so why wouldn't they do that? It's a very strange thing not to warn them. I'm sure there's an answer. So those are the Marauders, and they all became Animargi so they can control Moony, a werewolf, as they were out going along the grounds. And that's how they learned so much about the castle, and that's how they got the knowledge to create the Marauders map. That's very much just kind of right under, they don't really talk about that. They talk about the 2. So, and Wormtail, isn't it weird too that Peter Pettigrew's name is never brought up in further books? He is always talked about as Wormtail. They never say his name again. What do you think about that? Comment. Buckbeak is the next big thing that I had a problem with, and I understand that it was probably monetary making of the movie. They couldn't have a herd of hippogriffs, but I wish they did have a herd of hippogriffs. So instead of bitching about that, I get it. We got one. I'm happy with it. A lot of people like to bring up the time turner. Oh, Harry, I wish there was something I could do to bring back your parents, but I'll ignore the time turner and I'll save this hippogriff. To put a kibosh on that, in the weird world of time travel, Buckbeak never really dies. So it's not like they ever actually erase a death as they would with having to go back. if you tamper with more than like 5 hours, that's when stuff really starts to go. That's magical law. So obviously, going back much more, couldn't do that. You can't like. There are certain restrictions and certain things that people keep bringing up. Like one, he never died, so they never actually erase a life. So I can't really mess with the time stream, which is pretty awesome. And then yeah, it's only 5 hours. If not, you'll go mad. And as in the movie, you get them throwing the little snail things, hitting them. That never happens because they're really not supposed to interact with one another. Even Hermione's like, "Is that what my hair really looks like from the back?" Like she should have freaking known better. So that's in there. The firebolts is the last big kind of thing that I want to talk about. If you read the book, Harry gets the firebolts in like the middle of the book, like right after he gets the Nimbus destroyed from the Whomping Willow because he passed out with the Dementors. Like he gets it. They don't let him keep it right away because Hermione goes and snitches, and you know it's a good thing to do. A lot of people like in the book, you know, once he gets it back, they're like, all right, well I got it back, so forgive and forget. But like that whole time they're trying to test it and whatever, they're like, oh that Hermione sucks, and it's like kind of makes sense. They didn't know Sirius was a good guy, so like good looks Hermione. You know, I'd want a friend like that. In seriousness, see what I did there. So the firebolt gets like, make sure it has no spells, and then he rides it. In the end of the movie, it's just like, oh, there's this firebolt, and look what he has, and it's a hippogriff feather, so you know that that's exactly what it's going to be and where it is. That's all I have as far as what's going on. The other thing that I wanted to mention now that we talked about the Marauders is that everybody wants the next book to be about the Marauders. You know, let's get a story about those four in the good old days of Hogwarts, before Peter like really just flipped over and going to jail, Azkaban, whatever. And I don't necessarily think that's a fantastic idea. I think that Fantastic Beasts is a good year. Also, really quick before I start going into too many things, J.K. Rowling has officially said that it's from 1924 to 45. So what happens in 1945? That's the year Dumbledore defeats Grindelwald. So that's where that time frame of the Fantastic Beasts movie are going to happen. Come back out of that. That's why we don't need a Marauders movie. Let's stay there going. And a lot of people think too, like they're kind of really freaking mean to Snape. You know, even in further books when they're talking about Snape, about how greasy and hairy he was, or like long-haired and greasy, it's like, lay off the poor kid. Maybe he can't control his glands and shit. But then later on, you know, past the third book, I was just finishing 4, and I'm going to do the next one on 4, obviously. They say that Snape knew more dark magic coming into Hogwarts than 7th years knew graduating that year. So that's a lot of dark magic, you know. So I can kind of maybe want to see that too. You know, maybe they weren't just mean. Maybe this guy really was up to no good, but then we know the future and you still loved her and always. And so there's never going to be a time where we'll actually hate Snape because we know we'll always, always love him. So I don't want to see that route go down. Sorry for the big kind of kibosh that I got there. The other one last thing, excuse me, Michael Gambon now comes in as Dumbledore. So that was another thing, you know, we had to pass on from the first one, and from there he plays them all the way to the end and does a great job. Knew more about? Okay, and that's everything. This has been Gluttons for Geekdom. Comment down below if you want to talk about anything else coming up. I'm not set for tomorrow. Maybe Star Wars. What about Star Wars do you want to talk about? Let me know. Gluttons for Geekdom on Facebook. You can tweet us at Gluttonous Geeks. We're on Instagram, Gluttons for Geekdom, if you will. And I think for today, mischief managed.